because
Hmm.
my friends ask me like, why do you love Superman so much? And then they're like, assume, right? It's the powers and stuff. And I love the speech that he gave Lex Luthor, right? Like,
Hmm.
because it really, it's not the God part of him, right? Or godly part or the powers I always found interesting.
Hmm.
I found it interesting, like, like there's one comic, right, where he like a girl's gonna jump off, and Spider-Man has one too,
Yeah.
but they're like both cancer patients or leukemia. I think one's cancer, one's leukemia.
Yeah.
So terminal diagnosis, and but they both take a minute to stop, right? And I love Superman's in particular, because the girl was based because he can see, right? X-ray vision, he can see she's not gonna make it, right?
Yeah.
And I think she's like 12 or something, right? And, but like, and then he goes to her funeral and stuff, right? And it's just like the fact that you have somebody that has godlike powers, and he says it in this little mini comic, like the fact that I couldn't save her,
Hmm.
like that's what sticks with him the most, right? And
Yeah.
like that kind of the humanity, I think, is that he's not human, but it's his humanity, I think, that's always been really interesting. Lois and Clark with Dean Cain. Sorry, everybody, I know Dean Cain right now, but like when he was in the show, I thought it was so cool because it's and Brandon Sanderson makes sense with these in his lectures too, as he says Lois and Clark was not a great show because of the Superman parts. Lois and Clark was a great show because it was like him being the human side, right? How is he interacting with Lois and those things? And I think those are always the coolest parts of like the comics that I read too, is not that he's fighting Doomsday, but how he is able to be human even when he's not human. And I actually really like that they brought that up in the movie. I think the character just had
Yeah.
more depth that way.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it made this godlike character who's supposed to be perfect, right? And showed his imperfection. I thought it was really cool. And I liked in the movie how they gave him like, he needed crypto to save him a couple times and stuff or whatever, right? Or the robots, those kind of
Uh,
things. I liked that aspect. Like he had to learn from failure too, which he does in a lot of the comics. So I think that
yeah.
was really cool. But
Well, I
speaking of
mean,
good
yeah,
characters, yeah,
yeah, the amount of we'll say literature that is in comic books. I mean, we're talking there's thousands of stories. It's
yep.
difficult to see sometimes what they put on screen because it's like the one that I really love is and we're talking about covers before is Alex Ross. I love
Oh, I love Alex Ross.
and I love movie posters. That's kind of why I designed the I came up with the concepts for each of my covers that way. Um,
Mm,
but Kingdom Come, I love the Superman in Kingdom Come because that's you can see that Kansas, and I have no spoilers here, but Kansas has been destroyed and he's sort of put himself in exile,
yeah,
and it takes Wonder Woman to coax him back to become part of the world again and try and rein in the superheroes, and that was just as it was a marvelous graphic novel. I loved it. I still have it actually, and of course you've got the Dark Knight Returns as well, which was one. I mean, when they did Batman versus Superman, I was like, we were watching it. I was like, what did they do? They totally ruined it. That part is supposed to be in this other comic here. Why didn't they just make an older Batman? And it's like
yeah,
built to that whole thing because it was a great graphic novel. I mean, it
yeah.
was one of those ones that I loved comics before, but that brought me into the whole of
That
writing
was
and the
terrific.
art.
Yep.
That became where it meshed for me. John Buscema was one of my most favorite, comic artists. And you had John Byrne, and then of course Alex Ross comes along. It's just, I don't know. It's just for me, there's just so much there and to draw on in order to create really good movies. And you're spending $250 million on a movie, make it good. That's just
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes they take storylines. You're like, why out of all the story, you could have didn't talk to a fan. That's what I say. So,
yeah.
but it gets interesting.